Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. We're super excited to be here with you today for Hemp Tours Live, the recording. So I am your host, Leah Laxton. I'm, of course, a native Kentuckian with a passion for hemp living in the great state of Texas. I have my two amazing co-hosts and co-founders with me here today. Of course, our producer, Cynthia Morales.
What's up, everyone? Happy Thursday. Glad to be back.
Right. Yeah, we had a little snow out last week. So as you guys know, here in Texas, it was quite crazy. We'll discuss that among other things today. And of course, my other co-founder, co-host, you may not recognize him. Who is this guy, Captain Cannabis?
Hey guys, still staying positive, always thinking about change, changes of good change. So that's, life is full of changes, right?
Wow, it certainly is. You made a big change this week, and we'll talk about that as well. But we're super, super excited about this guest lineup today, guys. If you're following us on Facebook Live, you know you can drop questions into the box, and we will get to those questions. I think you're going to be really blown away by our guests today, some amazing people that are doing great things across the country in the world of cannabis. So let's get right to it. We'll intro our guests and have them give a few minutes, 3-5 minutes, talk about who they are and what they do in this world of cannabis. So let's start with you, Ace. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone, or good morning if you're on the West Coast. Thank you, Leah, Cynthia, and the whole Hemp Tours crew for inviting me here. I'm really honored to be here, especially with these wonderful fellow panelists. So I look forward to the conversation. We're gonna have a lot of fun. So really quickly about me, I have a clinical herbalism background, and I started making dietary supplements in 2001, the Wild West days of dietary supplements. And over the years, I've seen the implementation of many laws, such as the Common Allergen Labeling Law and GMPs for dietary supplements. And that's definitely applicable for what we see happening in the hemp products world today. So over the years, I found myself to be pretty good at interpreting regulations in a way that makes sense for whatever company I was representing. Too strict of an interpretation will hinder growth, and too loose is really not being compliant. And this is true for manufacturing and marketing. And so this has been tested by the FDA, who's inspected me 3 times on CFR 111 inspections with no 483s, which is pretty cool. So I got into the hemp industry a few years ago, where I was chief operating officer at this really wonderful company called Quicksilver Scientific. Quicksilver makes supplements and CBD products, and I was also in charge of their THC licensing division. So I got to meet great companies such as Wana, and even really large companies that have been in the news lately, such as Molson Coors. So from there, I was recruited to run a large vertical hemp company and contract manufacturer. So enter APA. I roll with my APA banner here. APA is the American Herbal Products Association, one of the top trade groups for the dietary supplement cannabis industries. Been around 39 years. So I was elected to the APA board as one of the only hemp companies on the APA board, which was a great honor. And then a few months later, they asked me to chair their cannabis committee, which is the largest committee at APA. I really love APA, and they're very important for the industry. So to kind of round this out, about a year and a half ago, I started an in-person network and education group here in Boulder County called the Boulder Hemp CBD Group. And this was really designed to help companies come together in best practice development and support. This was right when all the Big 15 warning letters were happening, and companies really didn't know how to market products in a way that was effective, but also lower risk without getting into trouble. So my in-person events continued until the pandemic, where I had to learn how to do virtual Zoom meetings like this one. And then I changed the name to regulatory education events. So these events are always free, and they explore regulatory problems facing the supplement and hemp industries, such as Prop 65 and claims, little things like that. So I love educating so much that I started my own regulatory consulting company around this called Supplement Advisory Group. So we focus on analyzing regulatory risk in web, social media labels, and then providing lower risk language. So that's really me in a nutshell.
I love it, Asa. Well, I'm a huge follower of yours on LinkedIn. And for anybody that's not connected with Asa on LinkedIn, if you're in the hemp industry, be sure to do so because I love your videos. You're always just showing the right path to take and how just little tweaks in wording make a huge difference, staying out of the crosshairs of the FDA. So we appreciate having you here with us today in this discussion. Now, Kelsey Cannabis, let's move to you. You're from our neighbor to the north. Tell us a little bit about yourself and the Canadian hemp industry.
Yeah, hi everybody. It is so great to meet you, and I'm so thankful for Higher Ed Hemp Tours, including me today. So thank you, and hello everybody from Canada. So my name is Kelsey Cannabis. I'm a cannabis educator and a public speaker. My journey actually started about 7 years ago. I used to be a financial planner in my prior life, and I suffered a long list of injuries, including a brain injury from a car accident. And dealing with those injuries was quite difficult, as many can appreciate. And it included a lot of medications, a lot of narcotics, over-the-counter medications, etc. And I honestly didn't think I would make it. It was quite overwhelming. I was told I would never work again, and clearly I'm not 70 years old. So that was a lot for me. I started to use cannabis in a medical capacity. We're federally legal for ourselves here in Canada. And I noticed a quality of life that just I wasn't getting from any other type of medications. And using cannabis in a medical way was helping me actually reduce the need of those narcotics, reduce the need of the medications. I was actually on 18 at one point. So I only take one at this time for nerve damage, which I have to take. But cannabis completely eradicated everything that I was troubling with and helped me get a new normal and literally a new take on life. So I became very passionate. I found the information intoxicating, as I'm sure many of you can appreciate, which is why we're here. And I just needed to know more. So for myself, I took a lot of cannabis education courses that I highly recommend, just including, I took Master of Marijuana at the Cannabis Training University, Trichome Institute out of the US too. They're phenomenal. Here in Canada, we have a company called CannaRep. So these are sommelier and education programs. So once I started taking all these, I just really found there was a lack of information out in the community, a lack of knowledge, stereotypes, people that just don't know what they don't know. And, you know, I wanted to represent the plant. I like to say I just work for the plant. And I started teaching, I started educating. And I feel if people, whether it's recreational or medical, it's therapeutic regardless. So if you have that knowledge in your tool belt, you can make a better decision. And for me, it's just really important that everybody gets that information and they can move forward with it, because cannabis doesn't mask your pain. I personally, and many of you would probably agree, it helps heal. And I'm a big fan of cannabis in all forms and the purposes it has behind it. So I'm just really happy to be advocating for education. And again, just thank you for having me here today. It's so nice to meet all y'all.
Thank you, Kelsey. And I know you do some awesome Cannabis 101 webinars that if people want to go and follow Kelsey Cannabis on LinkedIn, they can find access to those webinars as well, doing a lot to educate the community.
Beautiful story.
Yeah, I would really appreciate that. Now, Matt, getting over to Matt, I have to say, Matt, that my new monthly guilty pleasure has become the CCTA, California Cannabis Tourism Association. What are we? The operators board or something? I think over there that we're called. But I absolutely love it. I love meeting with you guys every month. So I was beyond stoked when you said you'd come over here and do our podcast with us. So tell us a little bit about what you do with the Humboldt Cannabis Tours.
All right, well, thanks so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here and connect. I'm so happy to see cannabis tourism growing across the country and across the world. I'm really excited to be here. So thanks for having me. My name is Matt Kurth, and I'm the owner and operator and founder and driver and bus washer and everything at Humboldt Cannabis Tours. And our website is humcannabis.com if anyone wants to check it out. And what we do is we take visitors out to visit working legal cannabis farms, and we touch the plant, we get our hands in the soil, It's super heavy on the education. That's really what I pride myself in. I know there's other tours out there where it's more focused on the party and smoking and getting stoned, which is great. I love smoking and getting stoned. That's awesome. But one of the things I'm most proud of is how we focus on education. And there's still some partying. We have a lot of fun on the tours. But really it's less of a party bus and more of a class for sure. Like a lot of people, one of the things I'm struggling with actually in the tour is people are overwhelmed with like the amount of information at the end of it. I bet you work with that too. People are just like their eyes start to glaze over. So I'm trying to, yeah. So I'm trying to figure out a way, like, I'm trying to create like a notebook that has like notes in it and like graphs and pictures that I can give them so they're not so overwhelmed. Anyways, it's really awesome. And this is our 3rd year in operation. We were a cannabis tour company in California, which I think maybe in the United States. I don't know who else is doing it. So I'm confident that we were the first in California and the first in Humboldt County. Well, I know they're doing it in Denver before me. Let me back up there. There was definitely tours doing in Denver for me. Anyways, so yeah, we've done about 200 tours with about 500 guests, and we have a 5-star rating on Google. So people really like us. My background is I studied recreation and tourism in college. So I have a bachelor's degree in recreation administration. I got an associate's degree in outdoor recreation leadership, which is really my specialty. And that's like rafting, climbing, sea kayaking, and all that kind of stuff. I managed an aquatic center for a while. So that's like the front part of my life. And then like a lot of people in Humboldt in California, like the back part of my life has always been cannabis. So I've been involved in cannabis since I was like 14. As soon as I found it, I loved it. And for me, it's really been nothing but positive my whole life, cannabis. The only bad part about cannabis is it's been illegal. Anything negative in my life that's come from cannabis has come from the fact that it's illegal. And that's not true for everybody. I mean, I know some people have negative experience with cannabis and it's not for everybody, but for me, it's been overwhelmingly positive. So I was an early medical patient in California in 2005. And then I was always in the cannabis business. Like I started off when I was in high school, like buying ounces and breaking them up into grams and that whole thing. And then moved on to like working on farms. So I started trimming on some farms up here, which is like processing the plant after you harvest it. And then I went from there to managing a farm. I have my own farm that I managed with some other people. I managed it. I did all the work on that 1 year, and that farm got busted and everything got taken, which is a wild story. I didn't get busted, which is great, but the farm did. And then, so I've done all different parts of the cannabis business. I've transported it across state lines, which is crazy. All that stuff is crazy. And I'm so happy to not do that stuff anymore because now I focus on the tourism, which is great. So I got this, so for me, I was living in Humboldt County and I love it here more than anything. I have this cannabis background. I have a recreation background, and then they made cannabis legal recreationally. So for me, if people that know me, it's a no-brainer that I started a cannabis tour company because it's the two things that I'm most passionate about and I have the most experience with in the place that I love. Like it's all me. I'm all about cannabis tourism. But yeah, that's kind of me and how I got started in this. And yeah, I love cannabis and I love showing people and sharing it with people.
I love it, Matt. Yeah, we've talked a lot about the education side and how important that is. And that's going to be a big part of this conversation too, on compliance and really creating an amazing experience for the cannabis or hemp consumer, and how the compliance and abiding by these regulations and incorporating education really does its part in that. So we're super excited to have you with us. I know you guys have a lot of regulations in the cannabis tourism side in California too that we don't have here. So that's really interesting development. But moving on to our returning champion, the one and only Brandon. Brandon, we got you off of Clubhouse to come and join us. I'm super stoked because you're like the Clubhouse king over here. Tell us a little bit about your journey into cannabis and what you do at Distribution Maven. Get you unmuted.
There, sorry, I had to unmute myself. I apologize. Yeah, so basically how I got into cannabis, I was in a really bad car wreck my senior year of high school. It was a graduation gift. It was a stick. I didn't really know how to drive it. Rolled back, got T-boned by a Hallmark delivery truck. I was unconscious on impact, woke up to 150 shots or 150 stitches in my face and 13 shots of morphine is basically when I came conscious. Then I was put on a morphine drip and then prescribed all sorts of opioids. And at the same time, I was trying to play Division I baseball and So I was trying to make sure that I wasn't using any illegal substances or anything that they were testing for. So here comes more opioids. I was up to 20 Advil a day at the end of my time before I got introduced to cannabis and got out of baseball. And what's funny enough is I could actually recover faster playing Division I rugby with cannabis than I could recover playing baseball without using opioids and alcohol to try to hide the pain. So I was the black sheep of the family, definitely looked down upon. I'm from Kansas. So my brother actually won the DARE essay for the state. So that's kind of the background of my family and how conservative they are and where they came from. So it was definitely looked down upon for many, almost 20 years until I actually got into the industry. I was a medical patient in California and Arizona, and now I am here currently in Missouri where I can actually home grow for the first time. So I completed my first home grow and am having some right here, but let's leave that for later. So I did some strawberry coffee and some blue dream, and I'm very excited with how they turned out. But I finally got into the industry. I was in remodeling. I was actually regional sales director for Anderson Windows, the big national window corporation, and moved all over the country. Decided my wife became pregnant, so we wanted to find a job that could settle down. And I had a buddy that was doing something in the cannabis space that I could really get behind. It's the Integra Boost product. I don't know if you can see my hat. It's a sustainable, compostable, biodegradable, salt-free, plant-based two-way humidity pack. So it keeps the flower from either drying out or molding, especially with having all the issues with supply chain these days. Lots of flower is either drying out on the shelves or is getting moldy if it's in the wrong environment. So that's how I got into the cannabis space. And now I'm working with a group here in Kansas to pass legislation. We are getting further and further. I'm excited with our progress, with all the help from Liz down here. Liz Grows, she's unbelievable with Growers House. She's helped me quite a bit with getting some stuff. We're kind of working together. And then just like you said on Clubhouse, I have met so many great people to network, and I'm really helping getting more and more information and education passed along to the people in the right places so it can get to those people in committees that are looking at it. So I really appreciate any help as far as that goes with anybody that has any background in getting legislation passed as well too.
That's awesome, Brandon. And you have a weekly Clubhouse right now, or more than one, right? What's your schedule on Clubhouse at the moment?
It's Tuesdays and Fridays, 10 a.m. Central, and it's sustainability in cannabis. So we talk about anything and everything from, water waste to, anything and everything you can think about making cannabis more sustainable for everyone, not just people that look like me.
That's excellent.
Yeah, I love it. You're always a blast on Clubhouse. All your rooms are awesome and high energy. So if you guys are in Clubhouse, definitely go follow Brandon. But let's open it up and have a little bit of a group discussion here. I want to talk about, again, compliance and how that affects the consumer experience. So Asa, maybe you can kick us off and kind of let us know a little bit more about what brands should be concerned about when it comes from the FDA, maybe other regulatory bodies, and really how this can play into the consumer experience, like creating a great experience for them. Because we know there's so many limitations around marketing. What can brands do to really be compliant, provide that great experience, but, walk on the right line on all of this?
I love that. And I love this so much. It's literally what I built my consulting company around, is trying to get this message across in a way that's effective, but also compliant, and it's going to keep companies out of hot water. So I'd say that as companies are building their brands, I think I'd fight the urge to feel like a company has to make claims in order to be successful. I see this a lot in my business where companies say, well, look, how am I going to sell my product if I can't talk about how the product's good for anxiety or depression and all this kind of thing? So I really suggest, number one, fighting the urge to educate the consumer on what CBD does and what it is. We have all these wonderful people like Kelsey Cannabis that can educate, but if you're selling a brand, just leave it up to the experts. Send them over to Kelsey Cannabis and leave that kind of education for the experts over there. Because the reason I bring that up is it's a really fine line between an informational blog, for example, and a claim. So an informational blog, you may talk about, hey, my CBD product's great for anxiety. and then it may link or imply that your product does that. That's the same thing as putting it on your label. So really quick, I could talk about this all day, but I'll try to be brief. You got me started on my favorite topic. So how do companies market their products without making claims? I wrote a whole blog post about this on my website, asawallenstein.com. One is the origin stories. I mean, between Matt, Brandon, and Kelsey, like hearing your how you got into cannabis, this is really compelling stuff. And if you had a brand, sharing your origin story is just fantastic. And also cultivating authentic excitement, pictures of your staff in nature with your product or your cannabis product. This is really great. And as long as they're not using buzzwords, this is wonderful too. And companies talking about their social justice or equitable programs, are they giving back to different charities, philanthropies that they really like? And are they parts of trade organizations like APA or US Hemp Authority, B Corp certified organic? These are all things that are really important differentiators.
Yeah,
I had a question too.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was wondering, Asa, so now I presume that first company that you mentioned was Colloidal Silver, was one of the product, that was the main product of that first company. Is that correct?
Yeah. Which one was that about getting a
You no, you mentioned a company that you had worked for that.
Thank you. No, to clarify, that's commonly asked, but the company name is Quicksilver Scientific and has nothing to do with colloidal silver. It's increased delivery, and they were just in the news for signing a licensing contract with Molson Coors to do enhanced uptake CBD waters, I think, and they work through some Canadian companies. So yeah.
So, but you've been in the I guess nutritional vitamin supplement business. So in the supplement business, this has always been an issue to be able to tell someone what that this is holy basil. It's going to help you relieve certain things, anyways, but you know what I'm saying. So in each of those things, a lot of people are out there saying, hey, I need some relief for this. And they go into the health food store, and sometimes you see labels that actually literally are telling you that this is what happens, but they can really get themselves in trouble with the FDA, right?
Yeah.
How did they get around that? Or how did you guys get around it?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm a big fan of, you not using the buzzwords. So my disclaimer is you always have to be truthful, not misleading. It's pretty obvious CBD is widely used for anxiety and other mood-oriented things and pain, but you wouldn't want to say anxiety relief or pain relief. Let's find lower risk words that get the same message across that are, of course, truthful, not misleading. How about mood support or happy mood support or balanced state of mind, mental resilience, things like that. And with pain and inflammation, replacing those words with discomfort or relief, soothing, that type of thing. That way we're getting that message across, but we're removing those buzzwords.
That's awesome. Yeah, very interesting. And Kelsey, do you want to chime in on this as well? How you see compliance affecting that cannabis consumer experience, and maybe some of Asa's thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. I love what Asa was saying. We could go on all day about limiting the conversations with medical terms. It is a fine line. So I definitely am picking up what you're throwing down. I couldn't agree more. Here in Canada, we have a similar differentiation between the recreational and the medical side, so to speak. So on the medical side, there's an efficacy that can be discussed with a doctor, as it should be, because people can be using other medications and things that can have a negative effect. And we don't want that for anyone, of course. And then on the recreational side, we have to be mindful of the words we use. We can't just say your anxiety's up and gone. I mean, we can indicate that we're leaning toward that, like Ace is saying, which I love the choice of words, but we have to be mindful of just saying you take this and the alternative end of it is completely gone or fixed. Because cannabis is different per person and the way you react with it. So it's not an end-all be-all situation where one equates to the other. With that being said, in terms of just compliance here in Canada, we have a lot of regulations when it comes to packaging. I've been down to the Cali market for years prior, and it's night and day. We have to have a lot of regulations, including house size the size of the logo, where it's placed, most of the packaging, you can't really differentiate one brand for another. So that does limit the consumer experience. But to flip to the other side of that, I always like to look for positives out of negatives. I am happy to see that we do have compliance, because that means we are being regulated, which means we can build on a foundation. So we'll get to where we want to be, I really believe, but with time, and thankfully it's happening. On the other side of it, from the cultivators, and in Canada, they're called licensed producers, LPs, they are our legal growing facilities for Canada. What happens with these compliance, it helps to have a more safer cannabis product on the legal side, because, you know, when you're having to deal with these regulations and compliance from us known as Health Canada here, you have to have certain standards met, and those standards being met are going to help have a safer product. So for example, we have a microbials test that has to be met and have under a certain number of microbials. Why that's important is because that leads to the avoidance of mold and fungus, etc. Whereas on the legacy market, which we all love for a variety of reasons still, you may have a grower that's cut his product down early due to mold and just cuts the mold off of all those colas and that flower in your bud. So you could be smoking potentially harmful bacteria, etc. in there. So although compliance can be difficult, it does help on a certain side of things. And I think we'll get there. It's just going to take time. But again, it does affect the customer's experience. But I have hope that we'll get there with time. So that's where I'm at.
Yeah,
That refreshing taste of botrytis. Delicious.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, you know, on that side, especially from the testing side. We noticed here in Texas that definitely the quality of hemp flower went up drastically when our licensing went into effect, requiring a full panel lab test. Even though you still see a lot of products that are not compliant now that we're getting there, you know, now they've started to enforce, and we're starting to see that really clean up, and the quality has been raised substantially. So, you know, overall for the consumer, this is a good thing, even though it adds money onto the brands, obviously, and raises that entry point. It's important, like this is a consumable going in someone's body, and usually someone who may have a health issue. So,
well, and that ties into, you know, not necessarily quality, but it helps increase the standard of quality. So I think that's just, again, really important. And growing up, I don't think a lot of us thought one day there would be a legal, or about to be legal, or depending on the state, in your case, legal cannabis. You know, when you're smoking your doobie 2 kilometers in the woods behind Taco Bell and hiding it under that rock to come back so you don't get in trouble, this was never on my mind. So again, being mindful of the fact that at least it's happening, we got to move forward from there and be grateful that it's a reality for many of us.
yeah,
It's nice for people to get educated even on, like, if you're smoking that, like, wow, for some reason, this flower really burns. I think I like that burn. It's like, well, let's look into the, oh, wow, it's powdered mildew. So you're smoking powdery mildew. So that's what's causing the burn. Oh, what, you know, but
Oh,
yeah, but people don't
absolutely.
know until they
I've
get
cracked a
educated.
nug open, a cap, I've cracked a nug open. And I mean, if you don't have the eye for it and you don't have a loop handy, I mean, it was filled with bugs. I picked out 6 and I had to put it back, you know, and that's not something you always see, but it's enough that you don't want to see it. So those compliance regulation, they'll help eliminate a lot of those negativities. And I look forward to them.
Yeah, it's really kind of messes you up when you start using a microscope on flower, to be honest, you know, especially hemp flower. I've judged a few competitions where I was just like, oh my gosh, and you knew this was like for a competition, and bugs
They
galore.
still send it in.
It's like, oh, thanks Trichome Institute for teaching us how to do this and ruining all of our experiences. No, just kidding. But it's very important to know for sure. Now, Matt, I know over in California, you guys are like the regulation kings over there. Like you have regulations around everything, including tourism. Tell us a little bit about how you're dealing with all of that.
Yeah, so yeah, we do have lots of regulations in California because we got lots of stuff going on, lots of people. So let me start. Well, so let me start at the state level. At the state level, there really isn't any regulations, which is good. Like, so there's 7 different permit types if you want to grow cannabis, like dispensary, cultivation, transportation, testing. but like tourism isn't a part of that. So at the state level, there's nothing for tourism, which is good, I think. Also, there's two sides of the regulation. There's my side, like the tour operator, and there's also the farm side. So at the state level, none of that's regulated. They just don't seem to care so far. So at the county level, then it's different from county to county. So I live in Humboldt County, and we have the most, well, I think currently we probably have the most strict cannabis tourism regulations. And really also right now in the moment today, I think we have the only cannabis tourism regulations kind of. And that is because Humboldt County is, well, we have been for a long time. And and this is not tooting our own horn. This is bad for us sometimes, but we're ahead of the game a lot. Like we're on the bleeding edge of things, which sometimes is cool and sometimes is a nightmare. Like it's not like when Colorado went legal or recreational legal before California, a lot of people here, and me too, I was so stoked. I was like, oh my God, thank you. Like you guys can do that. You can work it out. You can take the heat. We did it for medical and it was a nightmare. You know what I mean? So it's not always good to be on the cutting edge, but we are on the cutting edge of a lot of things. So for example, we started regulating recreational tourism in Humboldt County before it was legal in the state. And that's because medical was such a big deal here. And the medical cannabis was causing all these issues. Like the issues were already happening. And that was like environmental damage, violence, human trafficking, all the bad stuff you hear about that's unacceptable to anybody really. But that stuff all started happening here before recreational even. So the county here was moving towards regulating cannabis before we even had recreational. So we've just been ahead of the game out of any county in California with the regulations, which again, it's not always good. But so along with that, we've created the first cannabis tourism regulations. And a lot of that has to do with me, I think. So my story is I wanted to start doing cannabis tourism. I got the idea in 2010. And then, well, a lot of people have the idea. Cannabis tourism is not a unique idea. It's an easy idea to have. But I started having the idea myself in 2010. And then in 2015, I decided to really go for it. So then I started turning in like business applications with the county and things like that. And the county like didn't know what to do with me at all. So they didn't do anything. So it took me 2.5 years to get my permit through the county and $6,000. And the county created a special permit just for me, that's for cannabis tourism. So while that was going on, they also decided like, whoa, cannabis tourism's got to be a thing. We should write some regulations for this for the farms. So in Humboldt County, the farms have regulations on who you have to get a special addition to your cannabis permit in order to host the public, and they call it public accommodations. So the farm needs to be permitted to host the public, and then I need to be permitted to visit the farm. So both sides need to have special permits from the county. And that was super difficult for a long time. So forever, there was no farms that got the extra cannabis permit for lots of different reasons. But now we have 2 farms in Humboldt that are legally permitted to do tours, which is really awesome. So yeah, so that's what's going on in Humboldt County. I'm happy to talk more about the specifics of the regs too, if you'd like. And then in other counties, they are either not regulating it at all, or they are talking about banning it, which is wild. So in Napa and Sonoma County, which are known for wine, they're wine and wine tourism. They are also grow a lot of weed, a lot of great weed, but they are talking about banning cannabis tourism, which is so nuts. And it's all the people that basically the only people that are opposed to cannabis tourism are the people that already run wine tourism. So it's the wine tourism people trying to basically kick the ladder out from under the cannabis tour people. And it's crazy what you hear people say. So they're arguing that we shouldn't be having cannabis tourism because there'll be unsafe drivers on the road. It's like, dude, you run a winery. Like
Right.
you're literally like, what are you talking about? You know what I mean? It's so crazy. Well, and also there's many ways to do cannabis tourism without them driving. Like my tours, the customers don't drive anywhere. I have a van, we drive them. It's safer. You know what I mean? So it's just, it's economic. There's no moral argument that's good. It's all just people that already do wine tourism and don't want competition from cannabis tourism.
Has anyone talked about maybe how those tour companies for the wine company or, wine tourism could integrate a program within? Because, it's better to have good competition within an industry that's already there than that, and bring everyone together on the same team,
No, that's super smart. And so to be honest, I'm not involved too much down there. It's not, I'm like really deep in Humboldt. But I hear what's going on. I don't hear a lot of that. And it's so crazy. And it speaks to a broader thing I see in the industry is that people in the cannabis industry in general, I don't know why this is. I think it's because it's so small, maybe, and maybe because of our history. But there's this really a feeling across the board, across state, that the rising tide kind of raises all boats. And if we all make this work together, we're all going to do well. And that is like ubiquitous across cannabis. It's wild how much across industry, across everything, across backgrounds of people, demographics, everyone thinks that. And other businesses just don't run like that. And it's so crazy. But I think it's just a cultural thing. Like, but you're right, man. Like, why don't those wine tour companies just start doing weed tours? It's so nuts. Like, they could have more business coming, but they don't see it like that.
It helped explode. I mean, it's like another micro niche that can pull into their niche, and it actually would increase their business. But no one's explained it to them. That's what it's just like. Everyone's ignorant in this industry. People that are entrepreneurs, well, they think they are, and they're trying to start out being an entrepreneur in this industry is kind of a crazy idea. They need to go start a lemonade stand first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, to me, it boils down to like the cannabis cultural thing too. Like cannabis people are different. Like we have a different point of view on things. We have a rising tide raises all boats view. And people that are just straight capitalist business people, they don't live like that. And they can't wrap their head around how why one business would want to help another if they're not related and stuff like that. They literally, it's a base thing, and they just can't wrap their head around why like mutual aid, mutual support. They can't grasp how that will be beneficial. They're all about fighting and competition. And that's just a cultural thing. I think that's a really bad part about America in general. I guess it's like, and what a cool part about the cannabis community is like, we all have that like support thing because of our history. Like we had to, you know what I mean? We've always had to.
Yeah, absolutely. Cynthia was on a webinar yesterday with Brian Applegarth, and he was like showing the profile of the cannabis tourism consumer, which he's so good at that education. And it's funny how it's very similar to the wine consumer, that the someone that travels to do a wine tour, they also want to do a cannabis tour. Mm-hmm. So it goes together.
Like 30%. So I think it was like 30%. It was incredible numbers.
And so it's how would that not go together? How that they want to divide it is totally crazy.
It's nuts.
I guess people that drink wine are ignorant. I'm just kidding. No, guys. I drink wine too.
Wine drinkers. They're not the wine drinkers. They're not the consumers. They're the people who own the companies, who are just business people. That's the thing. They're capitalists,
but they're not thinking around the whole picture. It's like, hey, exactly. we do a mafia thing here. It's like, no. We're family. This is peace and love. This plan.
Yeah. And I do love the cannabis industry for that. Like getting all of us here together today with all these amazing ideas. This is what it's all about. And this happens when you go across the country to expos and now virtually see all these events. It's really incredible. Asa and Kelsey, do you guys have any more comments, or Brandon too, on the really creating a great experience for consumers, other ways that we as an industry can keep on making that perfect consumer experience?
Yeah, I've got a great comment. I really like what you said, Matt, about the rising tide approach. I mean, really in any emerging industry, it really pays for community to come together in developing best practice and support each other. When I started the Boulder Hemp CBD group, it was in person in Boulder on a Tuesday night. And I spent $500 each event out of my pocket. And my wife was a little hesitant. She said, why are you spending all this money and stressing out over doing this whole educational networking group? And we all came together, we networked, we helped develop best practices and rise the tide. And after the first event, she said, you have to do more of these. It's amazing. I don't care what it costs. Let's do it, because it's just part of, I use that as my own personal example of how community can come together and, best practice development and support. So great comments, Matt.
Yeah, I love that. We have some comments from Facebook here. Catherine says, mutually beneficial relationships help everyone. Amen. Oscar's talking about the old water pipe trick from when we were talking about the way you have wording, etc. Reminds me that I think it was yesterday was the anniversary of the big water pipe bust back in 2003, where the Fed spent $12 million and 2,000 officers to put Tommy Chong in jail for 90 days. So it's good to see too that even on that front, things have definitely changed dramatically. Now we're talking about now we're talking about the MORE Act and Safe Banking Act and all of these other ways that we can be more compliant as an industry. Granted, that also means more regulations as an industry. So we have to take the good and the bad there as well. How about you, Kelsey? Do you have any more comments on the consumer experience?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it's well-versed, and again, back to what Asa was saying earlier, learning the education, it's a value-added experience. So if somebody can learn something or take away something, that's so important. But again, you know, the regulators stick to regulating, right? They're so good at regulating, but they're not so good at explaining the cannabis knowledge and the education, right? So when it comes to that, do your regulation, let us, the industry experts from inside out, and a top-down effect, be able to put that education out and get that out there. Because what Matt was saying earlier, when it comes to the cannabis industry, we don't band around a dollar, we band around a plant. And what we have is a community. And when you're in the cannabis community, it is undeniable that it is a community. We want to collaborate, we want to expand. That's literally that inside out factor that you don't see in corporate or banking or any of the these other industries that are focused around the dollar. And it shows, especially here. And I always like to say it would be so great if we could set the standard for other industries to see what it's really like. But coming back down to brands that have communities, whether that's giveaways, point systems, get their merchandise, that's a great way to increase the customer experience outside of education. And again, adding on to that community vibe. So that's my thoughts on that.
I love
that's
that.
exactly our experience too, right? Leah and I and Cynthia have all experienced that exact same thing, because, you know, you're like, how are all these low vibration people in this business? And they're all just the green rush, and they're rushing in. And then COVID comes, and all those people that we really felt like, man, they're just greedy, terrible people, they're all gone. They went out of business. And I'm like, yay.
Yeah. Bye.
Yeah, for sure. It's cleaned up a lot, you know, not that we're happy to see anyone go out of business, but just the fact that, you know, the people that were helping each other came out so solid is a beautiful part of something that was truly terrible that happened to our industry and tourism and so many, you know, mom and pop industries last year. And on that subject with sustainability too, that's where Brandon really comes in. I love what he's doing with pushing that sustainable aspect, that cannabis could be and should be the leader in sustainability. Everything from hempcrete to hemp packaging to just the way that we, you know, harvest and grow and all those amazing things. So this has been a really incredible discussion, guys. It's been an absolute pleasure to have all of you here. I'd like to roll through where individuals can get in contact with you. And if you have any closing thoughts, feel free to, or questions for anyone else in the group, feel free to drop that here. So let's start with you, Asa. I got your website pulled up here, asawaldstein.com.
Yep, perfect. Well, thanks so much. Well, again, really great connecting with everyone here, Matt, Kelsey, Cynthia, and everyone here on this event. So this is wonderful. And Brandon, I've really enjoyed getting a tour of your house too.
Right.
Spoke a little fun. I know we didn't get a chance to hear from you too much, but it's been great to connect with you as well. People can connect with me on asawaldstein.com. That's asawaldstein.com. The website pulled up here. There's a picture of me looking happy. But really, I'm not in the Vatican in that picture. It's just kind of a fake background that someone did for me for free. So I really, again, community compliance, natural health is really my tagline. I started building this website not knowing what I wanted to do. And so I just built it myself as I was kind of building out my regulatory consulting company. I've got a lot of resources for the community on there: regulatory blog, events, my press, of course, Prop 65 guidance. We don't want our hemp cannabis community to get in trouble by making claims or, you know, getting a Prop 65 lawsuit. So I've really built that out here. And then, of course, we all have to make money and support ourselves and our family. I've got the Work For Me tab that goes over my company, Supplement Advisory Group, and my services there.
Amazing. And be sure to also check him out on LinkedIn. He's always dropping quality content to help the industry.
And I want to say I also appreciate him too, because when one of these companies gets a black eye, we'll say, it can actually affect the rest of our community. And so we thank you so much for what you're doing.
Definitely. And Kelsey, let's go to you.
Yes.
How can people get in touch?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you everyone for your time. You can find me most common on LinkedIn, so Kelsey Cannabis, as well as Instagram. I'm really content heavy there. Some places you can find me up and coming. I've recently announced an amazing terpene webinar I've got coming up in March, so that can be found on Eventbrite or on my Instagram and my pages. It's going to be an amazing event. And tickets are going to go pretty quick on this one due to the feedback, so check it out. I also have up and coming to be posted soon another one of my Understanding Cannabis webinars that will be out. A lot of people think they know a lot about the plant and they learn a lot, so I encourage people to come to those. As well, I recently had here in Canada, I'm really proud of Chatelaine Magazine. They are Canada's largest women's brand magazine. I am featured in there on a medical cannabis story. That's on stands at Walmart or Chapters and Indigo. And then up and coming for podcast, Save the Terps, as we were talking about earlier, for humidity packs. I'll also be found in Bovida, some call them Bovida. So the Bovida Cultivate podcast coming up soon. So thank you for having me. And I look forward to educating everybody one plant at a time.
I love it. Thank you so much, Kelsey. And Matt, how about you? How can they find you and how can we book one of these tours?
Oh, you can find my website. It's right there. It's humcannabis.com. Or if you just Google Humboldt Cannabis Tours, it pops right up. Or if you Google California Cannabis Tours, it pops right up. We do dispensary tours year round. Starting in April, we're going to start our nursery tour. And then in June, we're going to start our full day and half day farm tours. We're really excited, and you can book through Peak. That's the we use, but it's all on the website. We're going to be visiting Huckleberry Hill, which is Johnny Casale's farm. He's a very famous farmer. We're going to be visiting him this year. He just got his tourism permit. Really excited about that, and it's going to be a really good year. Yeah, there's lots to see in Humboldt, lots to learn. It's also Humboldt County has the cleanest air in America. We've got 10 breweries. We've got delicious cheese and beef, and we got local seafood. And we have the best, my favorite farmers market ever. And we have great music when that starts happening again. And Humboldt is a beautiful place. We have the redwoods. Like God, the redwoods are redwoods on their own. Just come here and do the redwoods. But that's the nursery we visit.
We're booking a trip.
Yeah, come visit. So yeah, come do a tour. It's awesome. We also do business to business tours. I've done a lot of those, like business people that are interested in learning more. I've done large Canadian companies from France, Paraguay, Colombia, Italy, Spain, the Netherlands, Finland, Australia, Thailand. So companies actually come to me to do business tours where we focus on learning about getting into the business, which I love, the cannabis business. I really love to do. Some fun things going on in Humboldt that are coming up to keep your eye on is cannabis appellations. So appellations is like champagne or Burgundy or bourbon or Swiss cheese, or there's a horchata appellation in Spain, I just learned. But an appellation, we're gonna get cannabis appellations in Humboldt County. So, and we're in the process of developing those right now. So I'm really excited about cannabis appellations. And also we're gonna get a lot of cannabis lounges once COVID opens up too. So we're gonna have like more than 15 cannabis lounges of all different kinds. And some are gonna be like a coffee shop. One is going to be like a hand and foot massage place. There's going to be low dose, fresh cannabis restaurants. It's going to be nuts when the lounges open up. And folks can get a hold of me through my website at humcannabis.com, or anybody can call me on the phone at 707-839-4640, or you can email me anytime at info@humcannabis.com. And I love to talk to people. Like, call me anytime just to talk. I talked to some 17-year-old kid last night for an hour because he was just interested in the cannabis business. There's no way he was going to do a tour, but I was happy to talk to him. So I just love to talk to people. So give me a call anytime.
When I'm feeling lonely, I'll give you a shout.
Please do. Yeah.
Yeah, if you have any seasonal depression, give Matt a call, talk about cannabis tourism. I want to know if there's a reason why we shouldn't just all book this tour right now. Kelsey,
Yeah.
Brandon, I say we pick a date and we go out and see Matt out in Cali. And Brandon, are you still available? Are you with us? I think I got your info here.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm just driving. Sorry, I had to go to a dispensary for a new client today, so I apologize for having to show you guys my house. I was trying to find my stinking keys, so I was running all over.
You're
But,
funny.
No, I loved it. I thought it was kind of like a virtual grow tour. Like, I know you're home growing, so we wanted to see, the grow room and all that, but it was awesome. We know, again, you're the clubhouse king over here, so I know being on video is not normal for you anymore since you're living life on Clubhouse. But yeah, tell us a little bit about what you guys do at Distribution Maven, where they can get a hold of you.
Yeah, so the easiest way is either through my LinkedIn instant message or through my Instagram. I'm the.boostman on Instagram. If you can direct message me on either one of those are the easiest way to get a hold of me. And then, we do Integra Boost to make humidity packs, but I also do all of Desicare's lines. So if you are needing, oxygen absorbers or pillow packs for gel caps, we do all of those types of atmospheric controls as well. So I'm here to help and collaborate and help anybody with saving the terps.
I love it. I couldn't get your Instagram pulled up, but we'll definitely link it after the show. And distributionmaven.com is the website as well. So go connect with Brandon. Find him on Clubhouse. They just type your name in, right, on Clubhouse, and they can follow you over there.
I'm Brandon Jones 22.
There we go.
On Clubhouse.
Not 42. What are you doing? 22?
22 is my baseball number. I'm a huge Will Clark fan, the old San Francisco Giants.
Oh, yeah, Giants in the house.
I watched him when he was at Mississippi State in Omaha. Me and my father used to drive from Kansas City because it was Father's Day weekend to watch the College World Series every year. And he was I just love how he played. So that's where it comes from.
I knew I liked you, Brandon. That's awesome. That's wonderful. Big Will Clark fan from growing up in the area too. I love that.
Gotta love it. First base, I think Will mostly covered, wasn't it? And then they got moved out in the outfield like all first basers do. Absolutely. Yep. I love it. Well, we appreciate having you guys so much. This has been an amazing conversation. And of course, we'll have it up on all the podcast platforms tomorrow, but thank you everyone for tuning in on Facebook Live as well. We will be back next Thursday, 1 p.m. Central Time with another awesome lineup. You guys have an awesome day, and we look forward to following everyone on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, all the stuff.
Thanks, y'all.
Thanks, that was awesome.